virus days, keeping the kids away. On my way to where the place is closed. Can you tell me how to get to Pittsburgh Street? Six feet away until everything's a-okay. Empty desks where we used to meet. Can you tell me how to get to Pittsburgh Street? It's a very lonely ride. Everyone is stuck inside to mask people like you. Mask people like what ridiculous virus days, keeping the kids away. Social distance where we used to meet. Can you tell me how to get to Pittsburgh Street? How to get to Pittsburgh Street? How to get to Pittsburgh Street?
Where's Emily? Elmer, where's Oscar? Oh no! That's grouchy old Oscar.
Put the top of my trash can, little.
So today, Matthew Mathers, we're working on a sheet called Graphs. Now, I'm going to use this sheet not just for your homework paper, but also just for the notes kind of explanation. I'll just explain what some of these graphs are about without giving you away all of the answers necessarily. But on the front, I have a sort of like a line graph. And at the top, I give a little key that describes how you know who's who. So if I'm talking about Phil, we're looking for the solid line. If I'm talking about Lindsay, we'd be looking at the line with like dot, 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 a bunch of dots really packed close together. And if I'm talking about Chelsea, we'd be looking for the sort of hyphens that are strung together. So if I wanted to ask you, how many days did Phil do his homework in 2002? So we'd have to take Phil's solid line. We'd have to find 2002. Phil's solid line is the middle thing. So the days that Phil did homework that year, it'd be 20, because that's the number that lines up with that height. Or if I asked you how much homework, what year did Chelsea do 60? So for Chelsea, we look for the hyphen-y thing, which is the first mountain and down. We'd be following that line. So Chelsea doing 60, we go to the 60 line, we find Chelsea, that's 2002. So what we're trying to do is use the key here of whose line is whose. The numbers are represented over here on the y-axis, which is the line that goes up and down, how tall it's going. The years are given by the x-axis, numbered from 2001 to 2007. So that's what that's about. If that's not enough explanation to answer some of the questions, give me an email and I'll try to work it out with you. Page 2, I have some like pie chart sort of graphs. So down here, there's the key. Anything that has to do with Sam, I did by straight up and down sort of lines. So if I asked you 2005, what did Sam do? Sam did 50, because 50 is where I did the lines straight up and down. Kyle, I did his stuff straight across. So if I asked you, was there a year that Kyle did 25? Well, the first year, no, Kyle did 30 because the 30 was shaded this way. But yeah, the second year, Kyle did 25. 25 was shaded that way for the second year. 2006, Kyle did 25. So each person has a different sort of thing. Paul has a bunch of little speckly dots. Dayron, I did a diagonal sort of a shade. Mia, I just left black. So like the first year, Mia did 40. The second year, Mia did 20. That's how we're trying to read that graph to just see what's going on with that. The bottom graph, I did a bar graph. So on this bar graph, the different heights are referring to scores on a quiz that we don't know what the quiz was out of, but we know what the scores people got are. And then the heights represent what they got. So I could ask you, like, who had a 10? Well, the 10 line followed across, that's Rachel's column. Rachel had a 10. Or I could ask you, what did Anthony have? Well, find Anthony's name, see how high that is. It lines up with 20. Anthony had a 20. That's what that graph is about. The last page, we're back to just sort of a single line graph for a single person, making some money. So the bottom here is where you would look if I gave you a time. Here is where on the y-axis is what this is called. It goes up and down if I gave you money. So I could ask you a question like, if you worked 1.5 hours, how much money would you make? So you go over 1.5, trace straight up with your eye, and see how high is that mark. 1.5 hours makes you $100. Or I could ask you, how long do you have to work to make $140? Then you would track up to find the 140 height and trace straight across, over. That would be basically at the end of the graph, which lines up with 2.5 hours. 2.5 hours would have made you $140. The bottom graph does about the same. We're just showing value of a car depending on age. Unlike the previous graph, you work longer, you make more money, so that was an uphill graph. It's called a positive slope, to drop a word in there that some of you might know. Car values have a negative slope. The older a car gets, the less valuable it is. So I could ask you something like, 2-year-old car, what's it worth? Go to the 2-year column, straight up, and see what it lines up with. And I would say 2 years is roughly like $14,000-ish, maybe $13,000. Pencil would be my guide to stay nice and straight if I need to. So 2 years, I think I'd go with 13 there. If I ask you when the car might be worth 4, go to the 4,000 column, or 4,000 height, and just track straight across and see what that lines up with. I'd say $4,000 is about an 8-year-old car. So that's how those graphs are working. If you need more advice, email me and we'll work it out.